signed on the line by Scott MacArthur to promote season 2 of the Mick on Channel Paramount Network here in the UK and Ireland. Season 2 debuted last night, June the 4th. And if I can start off by speaking to you about Scott. The Mick, 2 seasons, season 1, 17 episodes, this season now 20 episodes, and I watched a good lot of season 1 myself. I had to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought there was a great sense of comedy, acting and humour, and I suppose for you, for an actor as well, how much did you enjoy the series?
Well, it was really a dream job. I mean, we had 2 brothers created it, the Chernin brothers, and they were an absolute joy to work with, and our cast was fantastic. We had an incredible crew, and I love the physical comedy, and I love all the stunts that we could pull off. So other than breaking a few ribs and tearing a meniscus in my knee, I would say it was one of the best jobs I ever had.
Yeah, and I suppose what struck me about the Mick in relation to, we all see comedies and humour and satire in relation to the sort of stage sort of laughter and audience, but the quality of the script writing, the jokes were just on the money in relation to the Mick, and you could really sense that each character had that bit of humour. It wasn't 1 or 2 actors or carrying the show, that each character had that bit of humour and comedic ability to them.
Well, I was also a writer on the show. I was actually a writer before I became Jimmy, but that's wonderful to hear, because we spent a lot of time on that. We really wanted each character to have a strong comedic point of view, and once we got those actors in place, you start writing to their strengths, and there were many. I mean, I think inside of at least deep inside of me, I think every guy can relate to being a 13-year-old kid in high school, and all the big events you have on the horizon there with, going through puberty and trying to get with your first girl or guy. And it was such a joy to write for the kids. And then, of course, Kaitlin's just a comedic juggernaut. So,
yeah, and it
was the best.
And can you tell us, how was your character? You said you were a writer on the show as well. How was your character, Jimmy, born, and how did you come about going from backstage being a writer to be propelled into the TV series as Jimmy? Was that always on the cards in relation to yourself performing on the TV sitcom?
Well, I'd love to tell you I'm nothing like Jimmy, but I think my friends and my wife would disagree. It started where, when we were making the show, the studio didn't really know who Jimmy was, and they were hesitant to have him kind of come into the world. But the Chernin brothers always had a very clear idea of that character, and I was writing, and as you write on these shows, you write for every character, and then at a certain point, about 2 to 3 months into the writing process, I just kind of caught a little lucky wave and kind of just started voicing Jimmy in the writer's room, and it seemed to kind of, I guess, connect. And the next thing I know, they asked if I wanted to be Jimmy, and I said no, because I was terrified to do something like that. And then they made me do it anyway, so it worked out. But it was season 2. We get deep into Jimmy's past. There's some episodes where we go back to his hometown, and you really start discovering why Jimmy is the way he is, which was so much fun to peel off those Band-Aids and rip open those scars.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, Scott, we all know Kaitlin Olson as well from a role in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and she's propelled the worldwide fame into this. This was a show as well where she got to go out on her own as well and stretch her boundaries as Mackenzie Mickey Murphy, and she really got to bring a different side to her character across all platforms as well, being that sort of the boisterous, cool sort of auntie, but then having to take on the responsibility of being thrown into a mothership sort of a guardian sort of role as well.
Yeah, I would never want to speak for Kaitlin, because she never stops talking. But, I'm kidding. That I think, I think she had been looking for an opportunity of maybe to step out on her own and try some stuff, but she was very selective, and rightfully so, because she's so funny that you really want to hope that the material is there to meet her. But the Chernin brothers, who created the Mick, they wrote and they were producers on It's Always Sunny for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so my understanding of it is when they came up with this idea, there was really only one person they wanted to play Mickey, and that was Kaitlin. And, she was open to it and jumped at the opportunity because she had always enjoyed their material on It's Always Sunny. And so it kind of went from there. And then Kaitlin was an executive producer of the Mick, and she had her hands all over the show, and thank God she did, because we all kind of took her lead, which was just awesome to be around.
Yeah, and if I can talk now about the sort of the young actors in the show, and you have Sophie Blackdiella, who played Sabrina Pemberton, and she in her sort of her role as well, we saw everything from breast implants to cyberbullying to sort of safe sex and teacher boyfriends and all the dynamics you could throw out for a rebellious sort of girl, but a sort of smart intellectual girl as well. You crossed all sorts of genres with that character.
Yeah, she was a fun. I just saw Sophia in New York last weekend. She's such an interesting person, and she has so many colors in and of herself that when you match Sophia to the character of Sabrina, there were so many directions to take her. She's at that age where she has all the ambition in the world, and maybe at times there's not the direction there to meet her. And we always felt like we could take her in any direction. And then Sophia, the actress, was just, I think one of my favorite moments in the whole show is when she's getting cyberbullied and she's really upset. She's kind of lying in her bed, and Mickey comes to give her the pep talk. And, just the way Sophia played that, she played it, it was very understated, and you really had the sense that she was disappointed until Mickey reminded her that she's the person who told Mickey that she has a fat voice.
Yeah.
And, Sabrina had such a sharp tongue. It was always amazing to try and get those lines out for her.
Yeah, and I suppose then you have Thomas Barbuccia, who played the sort of Republican, sort of young, sort of Chip Pemberton, and he was a sort of guy that wanted to live off the sort of family name and the family legacy and take on the next era of Pembertons, and he's and as far as I'm aware of, in season 2, his whole world comes crashing down in relation to his family identity as well.
Yeah, well, there's nothing nothing funnier than building somebody a castle to only tear it down.
Yeah.
And we thought watching Chip fall on his face, it just made us laugh so much in the writer's room. And Tommy, of course, is such a sweet kid. I mean, when he started the show, he was just a boy, and then in the 2 years we made it, he really came in to his own and was a young man. And so we kind of went on that ride, and we tried to give him material that would match where he was. So of course he did start the series as a staunch Republican and kind of a know-it-all, and then as he aged through it, we kind of started throwing him in situations that he wouldn't have all the answers, and it was just so funny. I mean, every time Tommy's voice, he has the ability where he could still crack his voice, and he can scream at a pitch that makes your testicles go into your throat. So we every once in a while we'd say, Tommy, can you give us the scream? And he'd kind of nod his head, and then sure enough, he would just hit this high pitch that was wildly funny to us.
And I suppose then you have the youngest member of the cast as well in Jack Stanton, who played Pemberton, a sort of HDD, hyperactive sort of young child with all these sort of difficulties, and the strain of a family breakup is taking its toll. But you see the idea of having to wrestle Kaitlin's interaction with Jack as well throughout the series in relation to that motherhood sort of bond that she doesn't believe that she has in her, but it comes out with her interactions with Jack.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Stanton, I always call him the young Jack Bauer. He reminds me of a young Kiefer Sutherland. He I mean, I can't possibly wrap my head around what that existence is for a 7-year-old to run around a set and have people chasing after him. I think Jack's most fun he had on set was when the cameras weren't rolling and he would attack the food table and eat candy and get away with murder. But he's just such a funny kid. His face is so sweet and so innocent. And then, you know, when we would stick him in these situations or, you know, put him in just kind of, I remember the birthday party episode where he swallows the balloon full of heroin was one of the first ideas that we ever talked about. And, you know, I remember the writers they told us that idea and the writers said, oh boy, okay, so this is the kind of show we're making. And, you know, we would do these table reads, and of course when the material was inappropriate for Jack to hear, he would wear these headphones. And then they would take the headphones off when it was his turn to say a line. And every time he read a line at the table read in front of all the executives, the whole room would break into hysterics. So I think Jack's got a bigger career than Christopher Walken at this point. That kid's popping around on every show, and he's just so much fun to be with.
Yeah, and if I can take you back now to in relation to the production week on set of the Mick, how long did it take actually? Where was the show shot in relation to location-wise, and how long did it actually take to produce an episode from the first time we gave that script to the first table read?
Well, you know, we would. It was 1 week per episode in terms of shooting. So we'd shoot out an entire episode in 5 days. We would shoot those some on the 20th Century Fox lot. Okay. And then we would occasionally drive around to various locations in Los Angeles. One of the tricks to making Los Angeles look like New England is you have to paint out all the palm trees in the editing process. But I thought our production team did an incredible job of convincing you that Los Angeles was Connecticut. But I'd say it would take about a month to come up with a story and get it into a script form. And then the actors would get that script on a Friday, and we would table read it during lunch on Monday while we were filming whatever episode we were currently doing. And so with network television, that train moves pretty fast. And, you know, you're just trying to keep the ball moving down the field. You know, not every swing has to be a home run. And sometimes it's a painful process because it's moving so fast. Yeah. But then sometimes the creativity comes from the necessity of having to move the ball, which is a lot of fun.
And I suppose your character, Jimmy, had so many sort of funny storylines throughout the series. And Jimmy, for Kaitlin, was that sort of love interest that was hanging on that she didn't really want to have. She had maybe higher, loftier ambitions, but Jimmy was always there on the fallback sort of guy, this sort of, what I say, not the drop-dead loser type of a boyfriend, but he was the type that had real romantic and caring intentions for Kaitlin, for Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, it was a character that initially we toyed with the idea of him just being a complete dirtbag. And then it just kind of made more sense to us that, you know, he might do it in a very weird way, but, that he did care about all these people around him. And we kind of always described him as like the old mangy dog that, you have, and everyone asks you, why do you have that dog? And you just tell him to shut up and go away, because at the end of the day, you know, Mickey sits on the couch with her old dog, Jimmy, and she knows he'll be there. Yeah. I mean, they both treat each other miserably. I mean, I feel bad for anybody who would be stuck in that relationship, but, you know, it had its unique charm, and I think those two characters really, at the end of the day, saw each other in a way that only they could.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, Scott, in relation to the Mick, the very first episodes, we see the Pembertons themselves, the Mickey's estranged sister and the billionaire sort of brother-in-law, and they're sporadic in throughout season 1. We don't actually, we make reference to them, but we don't actually see them. But in season 2 now, there is a coming together where the actual children are reunited and they see their parents in sort of prison, and that must be one of the great sort of scripts in relation to that episode alone, in relation to the boundaries you could go around with the parents being actually in prison.
Yeah, I think, the goal when we set out to write season 2 was, season 1 kind of set the table, and as what we explored in season 2 as we get deeper into the relationship between these characters and also why they are the way they are. So one of those is we never wanted to be an overly premise-heavy show or serialized show, in that if you missed one episode, you wouldn't understand what's happening in the next. But we did and we thought we owed the audience from time to time to check in on the parents in prison and kind of remind everybody how we got into this unfortunate situation. And, Trisha, who plays the Pemberton mom, was just so much fun to write for, and that is also Kaitlin's dear friend in real life. Yeah. So whenever we could get the two of them together, they would just, really fly off the rails and have a blast. So I think one of my favorite episodes is when the kids go to visit their parents in jail. And it's just such a far cry from where those children live in that mansion that it was a lot of fun to see come to life.
And I suppose in relation to your own character, in relation to season 2, I don't want to be giving too much away to our audience, but there is one episode where you're involved with a police sort of auction, and young Ben gets locked in the back of your police car, unable to get out, and that must have been a real sort of good comedy sort of moment, but a great chance for you and Jack to interact in relation to an episode that's predominantly featured around the two of you.
It was a blast. One of the things that episode reminds me of is in the Blues Brothers with Belushi and Dan Aykroyd when they drive around in this old cop car and they talk about cop suspension, cop brakes. It was funny to me that Jimmy would see a cop car and he would say, "Oh, I got to have that." We had this little blue car that Jimmy drives throughout the series, and we did a couple stunts in season 1 where I drove it up onto a curb and into a trash can, and I would actually do that. And this car it became more expensive week in and week out to keep the car running because of what we put it through. But at some point he had to get a new car. It made sense that this guy who's been in the back of a police car 1,000 times in his life would finally get to ride in the front. And Ben was amazing. Jack was amazing that week because when we shot that episode, it was about 105 degrees out in Malibu. And it was brutally hot, but, it didn't faze him. I mean, he had the luxury of being a, 7, 8-year-old kid where he just kind of did it. And he loved that episode, and Kaitlin loved doing that stuff with him. It was great.
And finally, Scott, now for the last 30 seconds, we leave it over to your character, Jimmy. We've episode 1 of season 2 debuted last night, but obviously there's another 19 episodes to go in season 2 in Channel Paramount. So why should all our Irish audience and listeners tune in for to watch the season 2, the Mick, on Channel Paramount Network? And we leave it over to Jimmy himself. 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, I think if you look around the world right now, it can get pretty heavy, and we just set out to give you 30 minutes of laughs and, entertain you and hopefully distract you from whatever's bothering you. And, you look at Mickey, you look at Jimmy, you look at these kids, it's a nice reminder that no matter what you're kind of going through, there's probably someone out there who's got it going worse. So nothing left to do but smile.
On that note, Scott MacArthur, thanks for taking the call this evening to look ahead to the season 2 of the Mick on Paramount Network, and we wish you, Scott, and all your colleagues on the Mick the best of luck in your future endeavours and upcoming projects for the years ahead. Take care, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. See you.
Bye.